When we talk about safety on the A34, the point here is that we had this announcement from Highways England a year ago that they were going to improve things. And now we hear there's a positive value for money assessment taking place. Do you have any idea what that means?
Yeah, good morning, David. I seem to remember talking to you about this a year ago on air. Look, the A34 causes driver frustration. It's a major contributor to speeding offences and dangerous driving generally. People get frustrated. That's the big issue here, I think. It beggars belief that planners, engineers, politicians who are now instituting these extra studies haven't been giving strategic long-term thought to this 10, 15, 20 years ago, that such a small two-lane road in both directions should be, covering such an important route. I think there's another issue here too, though, David. It has to do with us and the way we engage with local issues in an age of globalism. We're so connected globally now on a day-to-day basis. I think that big-picture national or global issues like Brexit, for example, dominate not just the flow of government resources, they dominate our minds, the way we think about local problems. So we complain to each other about issues like the A34 and other roads, but we don't necessarily campaign to demand change from decision makers. I think that's part of the problem.
But there are people campaigning locally. We heard from the A34 Action Group earlier. The trouble is, it seems to me, that civil servants throughout Westminster at the moment are being caught up, all of them, it appears, in handling Brexit or whatever might happen next. And because of that, so many issues are being put to one side, being sidelined.
Yeah, they are, but the A34 and other road problems, infrastructure problems, were in place before Brexit, before the referendum, indeed, in 2016. So I don't know that argument totally holds up, but I do think that whilst we complain about these things, we don't necessarily do what those particular campaigners are doing, and that is putting pressure on pressure points with local politicians in a way that we might have done a few years ago. I mean, if you think, since 2005, 379 local newspapers have closed in this country. All stats are showing that, sadly, fewer people are engaging with things like local media outlets. Maybe it's not the way with BBC Oxford, but it is in other places. So there are fewer opportunities for people to think, hey, there's more people out there that think like me. Let's get together and do something about that.
Are you saying that people don't feel empowered in the way they might once have done so?
Yeah, perhaps that's empowered's the word. Also, people perhaps choose not to engage in the way we used to. I mean, look, we face these things every day. We get on the train, we face a problem with delays and so on, and we complain to one another, but we don't necessarily take it to someone who can change it. And I think that's a challenge for all of us in this. The A34 is an atrocious road, in my view. It's an example of poor planning, but it's also now becoming just a status quo. We let it go on and on and on for years to come.
There is an apathy, isn't there, that we just put up with things in this country in a way that I think other nations don't. We just, shrug our shoulders. I mean, as you say, it beggars belief that this hasn't been sorted out now.
Yeah, it does. What we tend to do, I think, David, and this is an observation, not necessarily a criticism, we here in Britain, we tend to complain to one another. If you're sitting on a train and you're delayed, you'll complain to the person next to you, but you won't necessarily take it to someone on the train or someone further up the chain in the station or whatever to complain about the issue. Now, there's exceptions to that, of course, but generally speaking, I think we're so blessed and, in a sense, cursed with the politeness that we have as a nation, which I treasure, but it can be a weakness in that we don't complain enough about things, and we certainly, in terms of road structure, don't take it to the people who can change it, aside from a few campaigners.
We do lead the world in procrastination in this country, don't we? We're very good at scratching our heads and just putting things in trays.
Well, I don't know, but we are a bureaucratic country. Everywhere Britain went in terms of empire, it left behind bureaucracy, and that was both a blessing and a curse. In my homeland of Australia, in Canada, India is another example, Singapore, great bureaucracy which helped us set up the political system and give it stability. But bureaucracy is a good servant and a poor master, and I think sometimes it gets too much
It's a good
oxygen.
line. Good line. Thank you very much, Mal. Always good to talk to you, social commentator Mal Fletcher.